The Pacific Northwest. So majestic, such a beautiful region. The reason I'm talking about it in a painting and decorating video is because recently I discovered some regional color palettes made by Benjamin Moore. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through all the colors in this palette just to give you some ideas if you really resonate with parts of British Columbia and Seattle and Portland, that part of North America. Maybe this color palette is going to be perfect for you. So let's get into it, and then at the end I'll give you my overall thoughts on it. So not to spoil it too much, but I'm going to flash the color palette on the screen really quick. So if you caught that, you notice that it's sort of a half and half split of more neutral colors and then the more saturated colors, which I think is handy right off the gate because neutral colors serve that purpose of just filling those gaps in your home. Anywhere you want something just nice and soft to sort of fit in, neutrals are usually a great place to start with. And then where you want to change things up, you can replace that with a more saturated, punchy color, which this palette has 6 of those fun colors. And then 6, I don't want to say not fun, but 6 necessary colors in the neutrals. So we'll start with 2 off-whites here, and I want to say off-white because they're not necessarily the brightest, but I do like these 2 in tandem with one another. White Heron is the first color, which is the brightest choice, the highest LRV paint color, and then you have Paper White, which is a little bit darker, but still very much in that off-white category. The reason I like them together is because they give you something different. Paper White is going to be just a really pleasing, very soft, slightly cooler white, almost a very light passive gray. It's actually the color I used in my upstairs bathrooms, believe it or not. White Heron, on the other hand, has that brightness, but it also feels a little more lively. It has more warmth to it, which is nice, but it's not going to feel overly warm. It's not overly creamy or yellowy. It's soft enough. So right off the bat, you have 2 of those options there if you want to go a little warmer or a little cooler with a little more depth. The next color is Jute. Good old Jute. This is another warmer color, kind of like White Heron, but much more depth. This is more of a lighter mid-tone paint color, and I do see this definitely as a wall color. Very, very good neutral choice. Kind of a contemporary take on beige. It does have that gray element too, which makes sense considering the next 3 colors we're going to talk about. Spoiler alert, Jute is going to be your default warm neutral choice because the next 3 are all gray, like true grays, very cool leaning, very earthy, kind of like the Stones, I think Rocky Mountains, all that good stuff. You have Gray Owl, Metropolitan, and Storm. I don't think these need deep dives because essentially it's 3 tiers, 3 levels of gray in terms of darkness. And I think that just reflects, you know, the mountainscapes, maybe the sky, if it becomes a bit cloudy and stormy, hence Storm. And you can even slot Paper White into these 3 grays as like a foursome. So you have 4 grays varying in different levels of depth and darkness. So just as a quick recap, you have a warm off-white, you have 4 grays, and then you have kind of this beigey gray. Now let's get into some of the fun colors. So we have 6 more that bring in saturation, still very evocative of the Pacific Northwest. The first one is Mocha Madness, and this is kind of a funny name. But essentially what it gives you is obviously like a coffee brown. I more so see it as tree bark, like a dark, rich, hardy brown, very rich in saturation. I almost see this as dark brown in its purest form. It doesn't feel too shaded with black or a green leaning shade happening. It's very much brown, which leads us into the next color, which is very much black because that's what it's called, black. Great choice to get some really nice contrast because obviously black is the darkest color that Benjamin Moore makes. And it also can reflect the deep black sky. You can use it anywhere you just want that really dramatic punch. I think it's honestly a great addition to any color palette, really. You can, of course, replace it with some sort of off black or charcoal gray, but why not just go for the real thing? Next up, we have Marblehead Gold, which is really nice. It adds a lot of beautiful sunny warmth. For me, this color represents the sun just sort of beaming down on all the beautiful pine trees. And speaking of pine trees, Great Barrington Green is the next color. Now we have a deeper, like a coniferous green almost, which I love. Perfect for this whole palette. Cedar Green is an interesting one because it almost feels not necessarily artificial, but it has this mintiness to it, this sort of pistachio feel, I guess you could say. So maybe you got some pistachio gelato at your favorite Portland ice cream shop or something. Obviously the name is thematic. cedar trees and all that. I think outside of the whole nature theme, this color still fits really, really well because what it adds is just a little bit of fun, some vibrancy, and it's green, which also goes with the other green and the brown and of course the black and all that. We then have Caribbean blue water. Now, obviously there's not going to be a lot of Caribbean vibes in the Pacific Northwest, but you do have a lot of beautiful water, kind of like cedar green as well. This is another fun color, another accent choice that can really pop out, especially amongst the more neutral colors from earlier on, and also compared to the more natural landscape type colors, whether we're talking about brown and green and even yellow. So what do I think about this color palette overall? As the first regional color palette to really go through here on the channel, this one's a bit lukewarm for me, I think, which is surprising because I love nature and I love green and all that. I would probably give it 3.5 hipster coffee shops out of 5. The reason for that is I just don't think there's enough variety, especially within the neutral palette. You have 4 different types of gray happening here, which is not very exciting. I do appreciate the flexibility if you want to customize how much light you want these gray colors to reflect in the space. It also allows you to play with subtle bits of contrast if you want, let's say, a slightly darker door and then a lighter trim, an even lighter wall color, all within gray. But come on, that doesn't sound exciting. I would have loved to see more warm neutrals, but that's just my personal preference. Or maybe a bit of red or something. Just another color to really round everything out. Thematically, I do enjoy it. I think the Pacific Northwest doesn't have the warmest temperatures, so it's not surprising to see a lot of cooler colors, especially in those grays. Let me know if you want me to look at another regional color palette. I'll leave a couple on the screen here. Comment below which one you want me to check out next. And we got some more painting and decorating content right over here for you. And don't forget to like and subscribe, please, because that's what you do on YouTube, right? If you like the content, you press that like button. See you in the next one.